So I wanted to record a quick video about the article we were talking about earlier this week around where AI is helping agencies find more thinking time. There's a little bit of thinking around how do I use AI in production, and I think that's maybe targeting not really the best use case right now, especially for agencies. I think where AI, especially generative AI, and the power it brings in defining and using context from inputted data, I think that power can help agencies better manage their owned data, their internal data. I'll give you an example. When I was running and managing teams across organizations, we used a project management tool called Monday.com, very similar to lots of other project management tools out there. One of the biggest challenges we had was documenting the follow up from meetings or documenting progress on tasks and projects. So you log in Monday.com a list of projects you're working on for each client, tasks underneath that, who's assigned with it, deadlines, things like that. But over time, I think people became disconnected from the input work of putting stuff into Monday.com and the outputs and outcomes of actually realizing pieces and results for their clients. So you end up with this system that's always like 40% full. You have a bunch of boards that are missing information, things never get moved over, there was discussion in meetings that never gets put anywhere, and so you have a whole bunch of teams who are working almost like asynchronously with each other. You've got information stored on other people's Apple Notes, or they're writing, handwritten to-do lists. There's just this lack of connection between the information. And I think that's where something like a generative AI tool can really help. What if you could capture that information directly from a meeting and input it into your Monday platform or your project management platform? Or you have an AI tool that can assess all that information and generate weekly or bi-weekly client agendas ahead of time. So instead of doing the admin work of having to go back through and scrape everything, grind through it, create this information, an AI tool that manages that internal data for you could really help solve a lot of those challenges. Two that come to mind is Otter. So Otter AI, I use that for transcriptions for meetings. And they now have an LLM that sits atop the conversational data and works just with your data. And so when you're using it, it'll generate things like action items or key takeaways and some of those really important pieces that you can then just apply directly into a Monday platform. And with some additional automation, you can probably just have it do it itself immediately right after every agenda, right after every meeting. But speaking of agendas, there's a tool called Auto Agenda, and it integrates with a couple of platforms. But like Auto Agenda will assess those projects and tasks and then build your agenda for you ahead of your client meeting. And so I could see a future where you tell your team, hey, have all your stuff in here Tuesday by 3. That's when Auto Agenda runs the system. And if your piece doesn't make it into the agenda, we're not going to talk about it with the client, and create sort of this incentive to use the platform. But I think those kinds of tools that can help use your own data better, I think those are really going to be key to unlocking more thinking time. You're not spending as much time in that churn and burn, grind through data and admin work. You have tools that can really help you do that. One thing I'm really excited that I'm still watching, I shared a couple months ago, Chipmaker, NVIDIA, the ones who make the graphic units to run AI models, they have something called Chat with RTX. And that sits on like one card in your system, and that allows you to work with your own data internally on your one computer. So if you want to search for documents or work with documents and build that context from your own information, you can do that, and you've created this data lake that you get to put your own guardrails around and work within. I think we're going to start seeing more models built like that, or at least seeing the offering of building that for you on behalf of your agency. So I think as I think about where this AI stuff is going and where it can really help you, it's going to be using that context power, the power of understanding the relationship between data and helping you derive insights from it, and using tools that help you do that with your own data as opposed to mass producing copy or images or other kind of use cases we're seeing more generally with generative AI. So I think it's worth looking into a bit more. I named a couple in here, but if you have others you've been using or you want some extra help, let me know. We'd love to take a look. But either way, I think there's some stuff going on here that's worth taking a look at.